NBA Finals. Let's dive in. OKC and Indiana. The Thunder, a minus 700 favorite over the Pacers. That makes them the biggest Finals favorite since 2018 when the Warriors, the KD Warriors, were minus 1,200 against Cleveland. Golden State would sweep that series. The Thunder have the MVP. That's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He averaged 39 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds this year in 2 games against Indiana. Both of them were Thunder wins. His opponent, by the way, is Tyrese Halliburton, and he really struggled in those 2 games against OKC. In fact, that is, putting it lightly, he averaged just 11 points, his fewest against any opponent this season. Let's take a deeper dive into that. 11 points a game and just 5.5 assists in those 2 games, tied for his fewest against any opponent this year. Indiana minus 32 with him on the floor in those games, his worst plus minus against any opponent this year. And as I mentioned, we've got Brian Windhorst, the Windman, is up early with us from OKC ahead of game 1 tonight. And Wendy, in our first hour, we dove into Halliburton and the pressure that is on him to get it done here. The world is not giving the Pacers much of a chance. It's a small sample size. In the 2 games he played against OKC this year, it's only 2 games. But he really struggled and they dominated. What is the key for him in the Indiana offense tonight?
Yeah, the Pacers thrive on being able to pick mismatches and attack them. Their offensive strategy is to play very fast, get you before you set your defense. And when you set your defense, find the mismatches and take advantage. But the problem is there are no mismatches against the Thunder. They're so strong defensively. And the issue with Halliburton is he's at his best when he's scoring and creating. When he scores 20-plus points, they've basically been unbeatable this season. But what the Thunder do so well is they prevent him from even generating shots because they fight him so hard in the pick and roll. So you're going to have to see the Pacers really lean into what the Thunder will give. What they will give is 3-point shooting. And I know that sounds cliche in the modern NBA. The team that makes their 3-point shots was going to have an advantage, but it really matters against OKC.
Greeny, here's why I don't think it's going to happen for Indiana is in order to get into transition, you need freedom of movement. That's when Tyrese Halliburton's at his best. Lou Dort is one of these guys that nobody, like the Knicks don't have anybody on their roster like this, okay? It's when the shot goes up, Lou Dort is focused on where the hell is Tyrese Halliburton, and I'm going to meet him early. I'm going to be physical with him. I'm going to dislodge him. I'm going to be active. It's a different defensive matchup. So that's going to take away one of the main attributes of what makes Indiana so prolific offensively because you can dislodge him off his position, and that is to their advantage.
What you're seeing on your screen here are the matchups these teams had during the regular season and just how stifling that OKC defense is. They're just all over the place, but there's a decent look, Monica, that obviously doesn't even come close. You just watched the Pacers knocking down these threes against the Knicks. The Pacers have been the best 3-point shooting team in the playoffs. That's how they've gotten here. If that's the opportunity against the OKC defense, I feel like that gives them a chance.
Well, yeah, Greeny, is a chance. You got to play the basketball games, but to Wendy's point, the reason that it worked against the Knicks is because they were putting Cat and JB in those pick and rolls, and the Knicks failed to communicate on those pick and rolls. So then you collapse off the penetration, everybody's rotating, and you have a shooter on the wings. The Thunder, however, are cool switching, so they don't have to create the same sort of, or they will not be able to collapse the defense in the same way. And then those guys can get out and contest. I will also add, and I think it's important to point out, the Thunder have actually been playing almost 2 points faster as far as trying to track the pace than the Pacers actually have. And so to me, as interesting in this matchup is what does this Pacers defense even look like in terms of standing up? Mind you, Minnesota was the 6th ranked defense in the league, and look what the Pacers did to them. So they're going to have to combat their own medicine in many ways in this series.
How about that side of it? Can Indiana hold up defensively against SGA and those guys?
Yeah, I would actually think that scheme-wise, you can try to limit SGA and his touches, and also I think you can attack SGA offensively. Like I think you're going to see multiple guys bring the ball up the court, maybe try to take away his legs and force guys like Jalen Williams to beat you. But trust me, look, everybody's counting Indiana out. It will take a Herculean performance by Indiana. If Indiana wins a world championship, they will have every ounce of deserving to win it because they're beating the best team in the league.
Yeah.
OKC's the best team.
OKC has been the best team in the league. But, Wendy, you have repeatedly pointed out since January 1st, Indiana has been the 2nd best team in the league. That is, I mean, that's what the numbers tell us. So the idea that this is as one-sided as people are making it and as the gamblers are making it, people may look at that number and look at it sideways, Wendy.
Yeah, Indiana's got a lot going for them, including their depth. You know, maybe Indiana hasn't seen a defensive team like the Thunder. Well, the Thunder hasn't seen a team that plays with the speed of the Pacers. And one of the things that I have seen repeatedly in this postseason is, regardless of what your scouting report says, regardless of what your practice dictates, teams cannot believe how fast Indiana plays. They are shocked at how they get the ball up the court. So we have seen Indiana really do great in game ones, including win the last 2 game ones on the road, because their style really offsets and really upsets their opponents. Let's see how Oklahoma City, despite having some days to get ready, handles that that fastball tonight.
You looked skeptical when he was saying
because Wendy is so sound and sage and very level-headed in these conversations, and I just watched Indiana, and this is why I'm excited for this, because there is truth. Indiana wants to run off of a miss or make, which means they don't care whether you know what I'm saying, you hit the shot or not. They do push the ball up fast, but I just think, like, OKC has the equal level of speed and depth in my mind, and so those blatant advantages, I'm really curious to see how it's going to play, which is why, Jay, to me, Dagnall and Carlisle are huge in this one.
So let's get to what ESPN Bet Sportsbook is saying, and Joe Fortenbaugh is here. I've got OKC minus 9.5 in game one. What is your preference there? History
not on the side of Indiana here. I would lay the big number. If you take a look at the last 20 NBA Finals, home team game one, 17-3 against the spread. 14 of those 17 spread covers are by double digits. These aren't just wins, these are blowouts. In the modern NBA, your offense is your floor, okay? Take a look at Charlotte and Washington, I believe. They were the lowest scoring teams in the NBA this year at 105 points per game. 10 years ago, that would have ranked 4th in the NBA. Now it ranks dead last. Everybody can score. Who can play defense? You guys hit on all the keynotes with OKC's defense. It's not just the best this year, it's one of the best of this century for a million metrics. This is a huge step up for Indiana. For OKC, it's another day at the office. I think they roll in the series, and I think they cover the 9.5. Look, I'm going to give Indiana a fire's chance, but there's no Karl Anthony Towns on the floor that you can pick on. There's no Jalen Brunson on the floor that you can pick on. I think that's what makes this OKC team elite, just not this year, but literally historically an NBA reference. Rick Carlisle is a championship-winning coach. I thought he was brilliant in that 6-game series against the Knicks. He's had quite a few days to put some plan together. Let's see what his best punch is tonight in game one in Oklahoma City. Do more or less, brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Look into game one. Jay, the total is 9.5 assists tonight for Tyrese Halliburton. You go more or less? I'm going to go less. I think OKC is going to take him out of transition a lot of times, a full court press, turning him multiple times. I think other players will be initiating the offense for the Indiana Pacers, so less would be my answer. We had numbers earlier suggesting Halliburton struggled mightily in 2 matchups with OKC this year. Joe Fortenbaugh, 1.5 threes for Pascal Siakam tonight, more or less? More, because the opportunities will be there. At least 5 attempts in both games against OKC this year. Why? Look at the way Oklahoma City plays defense. They want to clog the lanes, which allows you the opportunity when driving to kick out to open 3-point shooters. That's what happened to Anthony Edwards. The problem for Minnesota was they couldn't knock down the shots. Siakam will have the opportunities. I'd go over 1.5.
I like it. And then, Jay, let's go to the MVP. 33.5 total points tonight for SGA. You go more or less? I'm going to go more. SGA is going to get his. Nobody is going to stop one of the best players in basketball from getting to his operational zones on the court. One of the best maybe to ever do that. Look, that shot reminds you of Kobe. I think how you limit Jalen Williams will be the key for Indiana. Okay, if you like those bets, those predictions that Jay and Joe just made, we have made them a parlay on the ESPN Bet Sportsbook app. Look for the more or less featured parlay on the homepage and in the parlay lounge. Now, a moment ago, Jay, it was an interesting moment. You started saying the best player, and then you kind of caught yourself. I noticed it. Yes. Well, I want to give you a little something here. If Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wins the championship, he will become the 4th player ever to win the scoring title, win the league MVP, and win the championship in the same year. Shaq did it once. Lou Alcindor did it for the Milwaukee Bucks. Michael Jordan did it 4 times because, of course, he did. And SGA would be the 4th to do it. By the way, all of those won MVP of the finals as well. It doesn't even have to go into that. So that's an interesting one, right? Look at the question on the screen. I just picked up on it. Jay was like, he's the best player, one of the best players. He's playing to become the best player, right? If he dominates this series, there will be nothing left to discuss. In the moment, at least, the league belongs to SGA.
Correct, until next June. I mean, it would be hard to dethrone a guy after dominating both through the regular season into the playoffs and in the finals. Like, that's the trifecta, so to speak. And I think the way that he plays ball, like, I'm so excited for this matchup because I don't know, outside of Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard, I start to get a little skeptical in terms of depth of defenders with the Pacers. And I think Aaron Nesmith is an incredible defender, an incredible competitor, but this matchup, like, I just think that SGA is so well-rounded. He's strong for his build. He finishes in the paint. He gets his team going, and he's just so evenly paced.
I love watching SGA play. It's still, though, I don't know if I can call him the best player in the game. That's still Nikola Jokic or that's still Giannis, in my opinion. I think SGA is very well on his way.
This guy won the MVP, he won the scoring title, and he probably should have been the MVP last year, too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but I think the accolades compared to what the game actually is on both sides of the ball, different conversations, right? I still think there's growth for SGA on the defensive end. Same with Jokic. We watched an improvement. That's where I go back to players like Giannis. But I do love the way he plays because I think it's he's the antithesis, right? If AI is the answer, then I think SGA is the antithesis. Just because he does everything contrary to what his peers says. He's not loud. He's not overly marketed. He's not chasing, all these build-up teams. He's just doing it on his own cool, collective way.
There's been sort of an aura of inevitability around this Thunder team, it feels like, all year long. And when that happens, sometimes I feel like those of us in the media who cover this stuff, myself included, it's not a criticism, we try and figure out reasons why it might not happen, right? Well, what might happen? What might befall them that they don't wind up doing this? And the overwhelming likelihood at this point, certainly based upon the odds, and we'll get Joe in on that in a second, is that this is going to be a coronation. This is going to be about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, I hear you, Jay, on the best in the game, but I also think, like, if we live in the present, to me, and even if you go back to last season when those guys come up short in Game 6, toe on the line, whatever, when it comes to the Thunder, like, this has been steady brewing, steady building, whatever you want. And that is sort of what we love about sports, being able to ride with the team. Now, this is obviously not one of your marquee markets, so I don't know if folks are as in tuned as they could be. But this would be a huge moment and an introduction on such a grand stage. I have a hard time not giving it to him.
Listen, I'm old enough to remember when OKC was last in the finals, and no one was talking about their market size because they had Kevin Durant and they had Russell Westbrook and they had James Harden. The conversation was not about, oh, are people going to be into this, or look how few people live in that market. Everyone was into it because it was about the stars. Those guys were superstars playing there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, for whatever reason, has not cut through the noise in the same way those guys did. This is his opportunity to do it.
See, if you're going to say it's a coronation for him, then I think it's a larger coronation for Sam Presti. I think it puts Sam Presti in that category, Pat Riley or Bob Myers, for what he's been able to do, accumulation of picks. They're still going to have a cap room of $30 million next year, and they have 15+ picks to work off. Are you kidding me? You're talking about one of the best leaders of organizations in the game of basketball. It should catapult his name as well.
Absolutely.
Bake, don't microwave. That's the plan. They've been baking for years. Phoenix tried to microwave. That's what got him in trouble.
So many people tried to microwave.
I understand that. And I heard Stephen A. say you have to have a ring to validate all of it. I get it. And I understand that working in the smaller market is a bit of a disadvantage for the general manager. To this point, they haven't put the cherry on top. And now there's a chance to do it. Joe, as I look over to you here, I see on my list, OKC, this is your note, has been really good in capital letters to its bettors this season. What does that mean?
Not exactly James Joyce, but the point still gets across. Minus 700 favorite, right? This is something you don't see. You mentioned it earlier. The Warriors against the Cavs a few years ago. That's the last big favorite we saw. So why is the price so big? They print money for their backers. 55 point spread covers in 82 games this season, most of the NBA by a mile. Next closest was Toronto and Cleveland at 48. And they don't just win, they win by margin. 12 points per game in the regular season, 10 points per game in the playoffs. That's what bettors like. Teams that are going to blow out the opposition and make you easy money. I talked to a veteran Vegas odds maker yesterday. I asked what you're seeing. We opened it at 9, he said, and immediately took professional money, whacked it up to 9.5. That's what happens. Even when you set a huge number for game one, you're still taking pro money in this situation.
Picks on the screen. If we can get them, Cindy, we'll make the predictions on the NBA Finals. I had a feeling it was going to look like this. Jay will. Do I see 5s? I see a 6.
Everybody, poor old Indiana.
Well, look, and they're going to love this in Indiana. They should. The whole world is giving them no chance whatsoever. That's exactly the way they should want it.